the Senior Vice President and General Manager of International at Gilt Group. I'm the only thing between you and lunch, so bear with me and we'll make this work. I apologize in advance for the cough I have, but I'll manage through that. I don't want to talk today about all of the options you have going global, all of the strategies, all of the tactics about going global. I want to make it more real and talk about what's happened with Gilt in the last 3 years. If we've identified an opportunity to go global and gone through this journey. We've had our challenges, we've had our successes, we've had our bloopers, and I'll share some of those. How many of you are familiar with Gilt? Just by a show of hands. So, a great number. Awesome. Well, thank you. I want to give a bit of background just to provide some context for what we'll talk about. Gilt is 7 years old this month. So in 2007, in November, we were founded by Kevin Ryan in New York. And the idea was to bring flash sales, to bring sample sales online to an American consumer. It was already in existence in France, and we have peers around the globe. But what we are is luxury flash sales, and both of those are important. From the luxury side, we differentiate ourselves from our domestic competition and also from our peers globally because we're a little more luxury focused than many of them. Most of our peers around the world are a little more mass level, and we tend to focus more the aspiration on luxury levels. The flash component is important too because the sales are limited duration. They start at noon Eastern time in New York, and they end about 36 hours later in most cases. And so there's this amazing opportunity, a short window of time to get a discount on an incredible brand that you covet. And so every day we bring about 3,000 to 5,000 new products every day to consumers, hoping to inspire them and delight them and give them a deal that they covet. Over time, we've built about 9 million, that was fast. We'll try that again. We have about 9 million active customers, and so this has been built over the last 7 years. And of those customers, 20% of the revenue now, or more than 20%, is coming from international markets. Part of that is through a joint venture we have in Japan with SoftBank, that we've had since 2009. And part of that is from our cross-border business. So we actually ship outside of the Japanese market from the American distribution centers to our customers around the world. And that has strong advantages, but also strong disadvantages on a market-by-market basis. We work with about 6,000 brands, and that continues to grow. So it's really about the breadth. And we do this within the women's category with accessories and fashion and apparel. We do it within men's apparel and fashion and gear. And then we also do it in kids and in the home space across a number of categories. In addition, we have Gilt City, which is our experiences arm that does restaurants and spas and some travel. We ship to about 180 countries. We have customers in 180, we ship to 100, but one of the things that we found that we'll talk about is the predominance of freight forwarding and parcel forwarding among international audiences. Mobile has been a really important part of the Gilt story. Our team was incredibly smart back in 2008, 2009 to realize that mobile is so important for flash. These sales start at noon Eastern time, and that's really convenient unless you're not in front of a laptop. And so having a tablet and a mobile experience has been really important, and it's now 40% or more of our revenue. And in certain markets, it's much higher than that. Some fun facts, our fastest product that we've ever sold, the fastest sales time was 0.2 seconds. In 2010, we launched the 2011 Volkswagen Jetta. Volkswagen came to us and said, we want to do something that gets attention. And so they came with a package that was a Gilt Gold Jetta. They created 3 of these Volkswagens just for Gilt. We sold 1 per day over 3 days, and each of them sold in about 0.2 seconds, which is remarkable, just as a point of reference. When you blink your eye, that's 0.22 seconds. So, pretty amazing platform. And then the most expensive thing we sold was a Jaguar. So Jaguar, seeing the Volkswagen experience, came to us and said, we want to do something very different and go very high-end. And so we created the Jaguar XJ Ultimate with them. Has a champagne fridge in the back seat, opulent leather. It included a trip to the factory in the UK with an amazing stay in London. And that sold for $155,000. So really a robust platform where we can go low and we can go very high. But what's enabling that is this incredible customer that we've developed over the last 9 years. These 9 million members are very affluent. They're very urban. They're very mobile. They're very social. And so from a marketer and a brand perspective, that's been transformational. In 2007, it was about, we want to be on Gilt so we can sell this product and liquidate this product in a discreet way. And in 2013, 14, and into 15, it's about Gilt as a marketing platform. These brands want to be in front of these customers. We're actually doing things that are really different now, in that, I swear I touched that once. Let's go to the nuts. So Stuart Weitzman, as one example, came to us about a year ago and said we want to do something really compelling for an anniversary, a big anniversary of the 50/50 booth, which is their iconic booth. And so we had the creative that Kate Moss was in. We had parties around the country with lights and Miranda Kerr. We actually sold these products at full price. There was no discount. And Stuart Weitzman created actual products for us exclusively to be sold on Gilt. And we sold basically through them. It was a remarkably successful event. We just did another one about a month ago now. And so we're seeing more and more brands come to us with this idea. Theory just launched their entire runway collection on Gilt at full price, and that was successful too. The other part of this that's interesting is brands are coming to us saying, we want to be tied into fashion. So non-fashion brands are saying, this consumer is so interesting, how do we tie fashion into what we're doing and take advantage of that? And this is an example we did with Infinity about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago now, where they came to us and said, we're launching this new car, it's called the Q50. Lifestyle is really important. Your customer is a perfect fit. What can we do? And so we went out to our fashion community and we brought in Tom Brown and Zach Posen, and they each got to tailor one Infinity Q50, how they wanted to do it. They could do anything they want. The canvas was completely blank. And so Zach came in and did an ombre exterior and a deep burgundy leather interior, and Tom came in and did a completely chromed out exterior and a black leather interior with the Tom Brown racing stripe. Both beautiful cars, both priced at a premium at $75,000, and not the sticker price, it was about $50,000. Both sold instantly, and then we complemented that with offline events through our Gilt City arm, which included the ability to drive and to touch and to feel the cars, and Infinity was thrilled. So you're seeing more and more of these, and the current one we have is with HP and Michael Bastian, where HP launched a smartwatch, and their idea was, this isn't a techie device, this is a fashion device that happens to do tech. It's been incredibly well received, and it's available only on Gilt right now. So that's the background on Gilt, and it provides context for what it means to go global. We've all heard the stats about why you should go global. In the US, where we're a little more inwardly focused than in Europe, it's all about diversification and growth, because the growth rates outside the US are so much higher than they are inside the US, specifically when you look at emerging markets in parts of Asia. And so we wanted to take a step back, and then about 4 years ago, 6 of us were together and talking, and some other people talking in the company, and we all got together and agreed this Gilt thing should be bigger outside the US than it is inside the US. When you think about it, the brands that we carry aren't available everywhere. The prices that we have certainly aren't available everywhere. And so we thought this should resonate, certainly in particular markets, but we thought there was an opportunity to do so globally. And so we stepped back and we started this 3 or 4 year journey now, and it's been remarkable. And so I want to go through what that process has been for us. And our hope is that you can take some of these lessons, some of the challenges, some of our failures, and some of our successes, and take them back for your businesses, your clients. Because if we make the consumer experience better for global customers, then this whole cross-border and international e-commerce thing is going to get bigger, and that's good for all of us. So when we look back, we didn't plan it this way, but looking back, we think there were 5 steps to going global, at least to date in our life. The first one was that we were completely oblivious, and we'll talk about what that means. The second one is really turning it on and starting to sell and learning and collecting data. The third one is around testing. Fourth one around targeting. So taking the data, testing around that, targeting particular markets. And then the one that we're really embarking on now is how do we scale? How do we scale not only our functional practices, but how do we scale the organization in a global way? Because coming from an American company that's very domestically focused, and making that a global company is not only empowering, but it's also very hard. And so we're walking through that process now. Phase 1 was about being oblivious. And so when we think about that, we had customers calling in to our customer service center saying, when are you going to ship to Canada? When are you going to ship to Australia? I'm in China and I would love to buy something, but I can't, because we didn't have the ability to ship outside of the US market. And that included the US Virgin Islands. So we truly shipped nowhere but the US. And so we had people on Facebook, and we'd get these Facebook comments every few days. When are you going to turn on international shipping? And what happened is we went back and looked at our data, and we tied the IP data traffic, the IP traffic data in our data warehouse to revenue, which was a bit of a project, and we saw that we actually had a decent amount of revenue coming from international markets, but these were just more savvy customers who were using parcel forwarding services. So we didn't know what that was at the time, but that means that customers are ordering from Gilt, they're shipping to California or New Jersey or Florida, and then there are services there that are forwarding those packages with their Amazon purchases or their eBay purchases to their home market. And that turned out to be quite a healthy amount of revenue, given that we hadn't done anything to date. And so without realizing it, we had this revenue, and it was really obvious to us that we needed to turn on international shipping and try to go global. So phase 2 was we actually turned to international shipping. We partnered with a company called Border Free. It's an American company that really handles a lot of the hard stuff that goes with the initial parts of going global, specifically taxes and duties and shipping and logistics. And so rather than figure that out all ourselves, we wanted to use that as a go-to-market. Let's go to every market simultaneously instead of having to choose 1 or 2. And then we can really collect data and see what's happening and where and target going forward. And so we really focused on conversations, on-the-ground research. I made trips to what became our top markets to talk to customers and to talk to our peers and to talk to e-commerce peers and to find out what's happening in those markets. There are also two big internal lessons that we learned before I get to the more internal, the more external ones. One is the technology part is a lot harder than you think. It's difficult to go from a domestic platform to a global platform that can flex locally, but still act globally. And we'll talk more about that, but that's a big shift in how you architect your systems. The second one is that globalizing an organization is a really long, hard process. And I certainly underestimated how difficult this was, but looking back, year one was about educating people and trying to get them to understand what the opportunity is. Because when international is 2 or 3 or 4% of your business, the people working on the 96% don't really care, and they're not incentivized to care because this is what's paying the bills, and this is just this little toy over here that we're trying to incubate. And so as we've gone through this process, how do we get them excited? How do we incentivize them? How do we motivate them? And what data and tools can we give them to help them be more productive and help them help us? So one of the big questions, and one of the things that I see a lot of our peers struggle with is, do you push into a market based on what you're seeing, or do you pull into a market, or be pulled into a market based on what your customer data is telling you? When we set up the initial dashboards to look at data, we had our top 20 markets that we thought were going to be our top 20 markets. And of those top 20, like 3 are our top 20 markets. So had we listened to all the analysts, had we done what our peers are doing, we would have spent millions or tens of millions of dollars to put a big office in Europe, and we were totally focused on Europe with our dashboards, and that would have made a lot of sense because everybody was doing that. We took a different approach where we turned it on and sort of sat back and watched the data come in. And in retrospect, this shouldn't have surprised us, but at the time it really did. Most of the energy, most of the results were coming from Asia. And so when we look at our markets today, one of our top 10 markets is in Europe, and that's the UK. The rest of them are Canada, Australia, and Asia focused. And so had we gone through the push route, the more traditional route, we would have missed that opportunity. Some big market learnings, and I can talk for hours about what we've learned, but these are the 4 big takeaways from us. One is that cross-border e-commerce is accelerating and it's not likely to slow. You can almost call this a megatrend. When you go to China, when you go to Korea, they're shopping from US websites. They're not shopping from Korean websites or Chinese websites. Part of that is about authenticity and wanting to know that the product is real and they can trust it. Part of it is they don't have access to those brands locally and they want that particular aesthetic or that particular style. And part of it is just a broader awareness of what's happening around the globe. I saw a study last night, 49% of British people and 51% of Americans expect to buy most or all of their needs online. In Brazil, that's 74%, and in China, that's 82%. So you see, they almost skipped a generation of technology. They expect e-commerce to be at the core of their lives, and as they become more aware globally and more aware of what they don't have locally, they're shopping more across borders. And so we think this is going to be a trend long into the future. Second one is customers really don't like price discrimination. And so this is a long-held retail tradition where you have a Zara store in Paris, and it has a different price than a Zara store in Tokyo, and the price is completely different from the Zara store in New York. And because the customers can't really compare the prices while you're sitting in a store, that works. And online, we see our peers in America doing this. The price in the US will be 40% lower than the price on an Australian site, and 70% lower than the price on a Chinese site. And we understand the psychology, but the customers are just too smart for that now. They go to a US website, they see a price, then they go to the Chinese clone of that website and they see a different price, they get really upset. And they call customer service, they send your CEO nasty emails, and that's not a good situation. The second part of this is we actually tried some tests where we offered free shipping because shipping is a huge lever, it's also a major cost. In exchange for offering free shipping, we actually increased the prices. And so we said, okay, we're going to do free shipping, but we're going to increase your prices by 6% because we know that's roughly what we need to do. Turns out the customers would rather pay for shipping than feel they're being discriminated against, even though it was effectively an aggregate wash. And so that was a big lesson for us. Customers don't want price discrimination, and I think that's going to be a trend in retail and e-commerce going into the future. The third and the fourth are closely tied together. So the effectiveness of marketing channels really does vary by country. When we look at China, social is such a big driver of what's happening, not only domestically, but internationally in e-commerce. When we look at what's happening with our own Weibo page, and our Weibo page has been up for like 3 weeks, tremendous traffic, but a lot of engagement and comments and feedback that we're getting from the customers saying, we want this, but we also know they're coming to check out our brand, to make sure that we're real. And so social in China is so important. Excuse me. Whereas in Australia, it's more social and search. And in Canada, it's more social and search. But all of these markets have very different marketing channels that are incredibly effective in very different ways. Merchandising also matters. We know that what sells in Canada and Australia today will never sell in China. We once had a tier 3 denim brand, a denim brand that we didn't expect much activity from, effectively sell out. We woke up the next morning, checked our morning sales reports. Our top brand for that entire day was this brand that many of us had never heard of. And so we did our homework, and it turns out all of that brand was sold to Korea. And then we did our homework some more, and it turns out that that's the only denim brand we sell size 22 and 23. And so there was all this potential energy, all this potential demand built up that we weren't activating on because we didn't have the right sizing. And we've seen the same thing with other colors and other brands. And so the merchandising market by market is really important. We actually show different sales to different markets today. We do about 170 up to 200 sales per week for different markets that our American base never sees. So all of this led to 5 pillars, and this is really the foundation of our customer experience. My team is so tired of seeing this slide, but I think it's really important. The first one to us, that's unique to us, is timing. So our sales start at noon Eastern time, and that's really inconvenient if you're in Sydney when it's 2 a.m., or if you're in Beijing when it's 1 a.m. And so we have to think about how our customers are engaging with the site, how we really make this apply to their life and adapt to their lifestyle when they're shopping and when they want to shop. The second one is taste. Do we have the right merchandise? Is there something on the site that people want to buy? Because without that, nobody's going to engage with your site. The third is logistics. So really important and almost understated how hard this is. You almost can't overstate how hard it is. But having logistics in place where you can get a product to a place within a reasonable amount of time, and it doesn't have to be Amazon like 2 days or even in China where you're competing with same-day shipping, but it has to be a reasonable amount of time at a reasonable price. So we see a lot of peers at 15 euros or at 9 euros, and we've had a lot of tests along the way that we'll talk about in a moment. Fourth is payments, the right kind of payments for that market. We launched with just credit cards. Now we have Alipay, UnionPay for China. We're starting to talk about European direct debit payment methods, really trying to be in tune with how people can pay. And the last one is localization. And this is really 3 parts. One is, can I read it? So that's useful. And it's easier for us with a fashion site because it's more pictorial driven. But at checkout, can you then enter all of your information in your own language? And so today on Gilt, we fail at this because you can't enter Chinese characters in our checkout. And a lot of that has to do with logistics because of the back end not supporting it. The second one is customer service. From a customer service perspective, can they engage? Chinese want to use chat. Many of our other customers want to use email or phone, and so having the right support in the right languages for those customers is really critical. And we've seen tremendous take-up from that. And the last part of localization is the actual site experience. In China, they want to click on a link and open a new tab, and open another tab, and open another tab. And you might see a Chinese browser with 40 tabs open, and that's normal. And they want to scroll for days. So if you go to Tmall's website, which does an amazing job of this, the site just keeps scrolling, but it's built like a department store. You have your first floor, and your second floor, and your third floor, and your fourth floor, and it goes forever. So these are really important parts of the customer experience. And if you're missing one of these, you're not going to come close to maximizing it. It's almost like you need all 5 to have any chance to succeed. So the third phase was a pretty short one for us. It's testing, and it actually is short, and then it leads into 4, but it never stops. So we did things like we merchandised for the Australian race day. So we're really trying to merchandise specific cultural events to see if those actually work in those markets. We also launched international shipping in $9.95. Historically, it had always been $19.95. Customers always want to pay less. We found a way economically to make $9.95 work, and that had tremendous lift in the business. We also localized the site in terms of static content. Everything we could localize that doesn't affect the products a few months ago. And what's been interesting is the lift has been unique. So in China, we saw an instant 25% lift in conversion, which is amazing. In Korea, we saw 0%, and we don't know why. So we have to go back now and look at the data and figure out why the Koreans didn't respond to the localization at all, but the Chinese consumers did. And so it's all about what pricing is working, what merchandising is resonating. Does language drive conversion? Really learning about those markets before you invest in a bigger launch, because a launch really is all-consuming, and that launch doesn't stop. You launch and then you keep going and supporting, and it becomes effectively incremental asks in terms of resourcing. The fourth phase is targeting, and this is where we are right now, and we hope we're getting out of this. We really launched into 3 markets this year. So we launched into Canada in March, we launched into Australia in September, we launched into China in November. And so this for us is more about a 360 marketing effort. A target campaign assumes that the product is right or close to right for that market. So there are certain things that we know we have to have from a user experience perspective before we want to spend money on marketing. And in these cases, it's a 360 marketing approach where we have social, we have PR, we have paid, we do on-the-ground events with local bloggers and local influencers. We're really trying to get the word out, and we have to sustain that, and that's the hard part. It's one thing to have a week of launches in Canada. It's another thing to continue to sustain that over time so you don't just fall off and have a one-time spike. And that's a lesson that we've learned and we continue to iterate on and get better at. The last part of targeting that I'll talk about is the next slide. And this is probably our biggest success today. For Singles Day in China, and Singles Day, just for anybody that doesn't know, is Alibaba's day where they sort of created this shopping event. It's becoming more and more global. It's very regional now. The Koreans are all over it. But it's very, very global, and Alibaba did $9.3 billion this year in one day, which is just a mind-boggling statistic. But we wanted to take part in that this year, and that meant three things for us to target China. One, we have to reimagine our technology. So it was a 5-month technology project that looked at adding Alipay and adding UnionPay, because those are 75% of online transactions. We had to translate the site statically, so we translated everything that wasn't product-oriented. We went with a new direct shipping provider, so we could do faster, cheaper shipping. Page load times were really slow in China. They were 4 or 5 seconds, and we got those down to 2 seconds. And then we localized the email timing so that it was sending at the right time when they're awake, and our sales started when they're awake. And then we had to change the shopping experience. We had custom sales. We stopped including duties and taxes in their price because that's what they told us they wanted. We started to offer returns for the first time to a Chinese market, which was a really big deal. We localized the FAQs to provide better customer service, and we added more customer service agents who spoke Chinese so that we could support them through chat. And then lastly, we changed our communication strategy entirely just for that market. We added Weibo and WeChat so that we could engage with them socially. We added Alibaba's marketing platform called Alimama, which is effectively a DSP. We added a big local press push. We started to work with Baidu. We did internal messaging to our existing hundreds of thousands of Chinese members. And that paid off with, year over year, a Singles Day, we did 1,100% growth, 1,150% growth. So it really paid off, and now it's a question of how do we sustain that? How do we take this huge one-time spike and continue to do that? And that's what the next step is about, which is about scaling. And so this is about how do we support that? Do we need to be on the ground in Asia? Do we need to be on the ground in China? Because right now we support everything from New York City. And I just have a really funny hunch that if we're on the ground from a marketing perspective, we'll be more efficient. We'll know what's happening. We'll know what those channels are. If we're on the ground from a merchandising perspective, we're going to know what fashions are hot on the ground in Shanghai and Beijing and Hong Kong and Seoul and Sydney. And so we're looking very hard at how do we put more people on the ground in a cost-effective way. We're a very ROI, very data-driven company. But we want to do it intelligently. And so when we think about scaling, it's how do we do that smartly, but also how do we globalize the organization? I don't want to have an international marketing team and a domestic marketing team. I want to have a global marketing team. And what does that mean? And how do we change those tools, and how do we change the mindsets for every single function? And so we hope that these lessons help you. We hope that you can learn from these, that you can learn from our bloopers and our successes and our failures, and that we can grow our businesses together. So thank you very much for listening.
Tenemos tiempo para una pregunta, si alguien tiene alguna cuestión. ¿No hay preguntas? ¿No? Aquí mismo. Espera, que te traen el... Tenemos recursos para el micrófono, ¿no? Ahí.
Hey, I just wanted to know what was the denim brand that you sold out in one day? Or in one overnight?
What was the what that we sold out?
That's the denim brand.
Oh, yeah, I can't tell that. We have to keep the brands quiet, but we were all blown away. Many of our merchants weren't familiar with the brand. So people in the space, and suddenly, because we have size 22 and 23 for the first time, gone.
Okay.
Pretty remarkable.
Okay. Thank you, Marshall. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Marshall Porter. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of International at Gilt Group. I'm the only thing between you and lunch, so bear with me and we'll make this work. I apologize in advance for the cough I have, but I'll manage through that. I don't want to talk today about all of the options you have going global, all of the strategies, all of the tactics about going global. I want to make it more real and talk about what's happened with Gilt in the last 3 years. If we've identified an opportunity to go global and gone through this journey. We've had our challenges, we've had our successes, we've had our bloopers, and I'll share some of those. How many of you are familiar with Gilt? Just by a show of hands. So, a great number. Awesome. Well, thank you. I want to give a bit of background just to provide some context for what we'll talk about. Gilt is 7 years old this month. So in 2007, in November, we were founded by Kevin Ryan in New York, freight forwarding and parcel forwarding among international audiences. Mobile has been a really important part of the Gilt story. Our team was incredibly smart back in 2008, 2009 to realize that mobile is so important for Flash. These sales start at noon Eastern time, and that's really convenient unless you're not in front of a laptop. And so having a tablet and a mobile experience has been really important, and it's now 40% or more of our revenue. And in certain markets, it's much higher than that. Some fun facts, our fastest product that we've ever sold, the fastest sale time was 0.2 seconds. In 2010, we launched the 2011 Volkswagen Jetta. Volkswagen came to us and said, we want to do something that gets attention. And so they came with a package that was a Gilt Gold Jetta. They created 3 of these Volkswagens just for Gilt. We sold 1 per day over 3 days, and each of them sold in about 0.2 seconds, which is remarkable, just as a point of reference. When you blink your eye, that's 0.22 seconds. So pretty amazing platform. And then the most expensive thing, we'll try that again. We have about 9 million active customers, and so this has been built over the last 7 years. And of those customers, 20% of the revenue now, or more than 20%, is coming from international markets. Part of that is through a joint venture we have in Japan with SoftBank that we've had since 2009. And part of that is from our cross-border business. So we actually ship outside of the Japanese market from the American distribution centers to our customers around the world. And that has strong advantages, but also strong disadvantages on a market-by-market basis. We work with about 6,000 brands, and that continues to grow. So it's really about the breadth. And we do this within the women's category with accessories and fashion and apparel. We do it within men's apparel and fashion and gear. And then we also do it in kids and in the home space across a number of categories. In addition, we have Gilt City, which is our experiences arm that does restaurants and spas and some travel. We ship to about 180 countries. We have customers in 180, we ship to 100, but one of the things that we found that we'll talk about is the predominance of... And the idea was to bring flash sales, to bring sample sales online to an American consumer. It was already in existence in France, and we have peers around the globe, but what we are is luxury flash sales, and both of those are important. From the luxury side, we differentiate ourselves from our domestic competition and also from our peers globally, because we're a little more luxury focused than many of them. Most of our peers around the world are a little more mass level, and we tend to focus more the aspiration on luxury levels. The flash component is important too, because the sales are limited duration. They start at noon Eastern time in New York, and they end about 36 hours later in most cases. And so there's this amazing opportunity, a short window of time to get a discount on an incredible brand that you covet. And so every day we bring about 3,000 to 5,000 new products every day to consumers, hoping to inspire them and delight them and give them a deal that they covet. Over time, we've built about 9 million, that was fast. We sold as a Jaguar. So Jaguar, seeing the Volkswagen experience, came to us and said, we want to do something very different and go very high end. And so we created the Jaguar XJ Ultimate with them, has a champagne fridge in the back seat, opulent leather. It included a trip to the factory in the UK with an amazing stay in London, and that sold for $155,000. So really a robust platform where we can go low and we can go very high, but what's enabling that is this incredible customer that we've developed over the last 9 years. These 9 million members are very affluent, they're very urban, they're very mobile, they're very social. And so from a marketer and a brand perspective, that's been transformational. In 2007, it was about, we want to be on Gilt so we can sell this product and liquidate this product in a discreet way. And in 2013, 14, and into 15, it's about Gilt as a marketing platform. These brands want to be in front of these customers. We're actually doing things that are really different now, in that, I swear I touched that once. Let's go to the nuts.